He describes the art and his own youth, but at the same time he documents a key moment in Spanish history.
In history, yes.
An amazing man with many talents. I mean, how would you describe the person behind the face?
Well, as you said, an amazing man, very talented, simple.
When one door shuts, another opens, for better or worse. And this is often interesting and unexpected. There's nothing more emasculating in life than letting oneself be trapped in the indolence of routine or petty bourgeois comforts. Severing my conservative ties with religious, moral and patriotic beliefs, which were nothing more than the friendly face of the powers that be, allowed me to form my own set of values and broaden my mind to more humane lifestyles.
What he prized mostly was the sincerity of people.
In his book, he recounts all the events, but he doesn't seem to ever bear grudges against people.
No, that was one of the things that he never had a grudge against anyone, even though there were many people who have grudges against him.
What I wanted to ask you was about the way Carles actually wrote the book. There's so much detail.
He started writing because he wrote compositions or wrote short articles occasionally, and then someone suggested, as a matter of fact, someone well known, but I don't remember who it was, suggested that he do his autobiography.
His autobiography, yeah, his memoirs.
Because it was sufficiently interesting to, at that time, and no one had written about the war sufficiently.
As darkness fell and the train approached Catalonia, the dull rumble of battle grew louder from the distant mountains. It was scary to think that this motley rabble of soldiers might have to go into action. I drifted off when someone slid open the heavy door and everyone jumped out as quick as lightning. I was greeted by the flash of 2 bombs exploding at the head of the convoy, and a split second later by a low-flying enemy plane strafing us. It felt as if half a dozen rounds, stinging like needles, were riddling my body, but my gaze remained fixed upwards, watching for the plane to fly past. Even today, I'm unable to come to terms with the fact that so much can happen in but a few milliseconds.
The original posters, are there any still left? Are they in museums or
No. Someone has said that the originals are somewhere. A lot of people have originals, but it doesn't exist, the original, because they would paint a poster and then turn over the page, the sheet, and paint it again.
Yeah.
So there are no originals. And whoever says that they have originals, it's not so.
Right.
It's not so.
There is no original, they're all lithographs.
Carles always used to say, I don't know why they talk about originals. I encouraged him to take the steps to come here. It was to see relatives and to know that people were still alive and so on.
On my first visit in 1956, I entered Franco's Spain with a passport issued by the Spanish consulate in New York. It was a special safe conduct for exiled Reds that allowed them to stay in Spain for 1 month without having to register with the police. In fact, I remained in Catalonia for over 6 months without authorization and without being hassled. I took advantage of my stay to reconcile with my father and his wife. My father continued to be an ardent supporter of the regime, though we did not discuss the question, nor did we reproach each other for anything from the past.
Do you remember, just out of curiosity, when and where you met Carles and what your first impressions were of him?
Yes. It was at the Centre Catalan, of course, as a good Catalan. And the first thing he did was look up his friend Miravilles.
Right, who features predominantly, is it?
Predominantly.
Yeah.
He knew that Miravilles was in New York, and that's why he came actually to New York.
Why didn't Volume 1 come out in Spanish?
I don't know.
That's very strange, isn't it? Because, I mean, of the
It was much more interesting. The first volume was much more interesting. But perhaps there was the element of the personal element where he talks about his childhood and so on. And perhaps that's the
I
reason.
see. How do you think that Carles would view the situation here in Catalonia today with the referendum?
He would be in favor of the referendum, but not very optimistic about it.
Yes? Why is that?
Well, because he wasn't very optimistic about Catalonia, even though he was very Catalan. The proof is that we came up here to live.
I was reared on the sentimental Catalanism of Josep Maria Folch i Torres. He conjured up images of an idyllic Catalonia where the rich kid always had a kind and generous gesture towards the less fortunate ragamuffin. As I basked in the glorious freedom of summer, I delighted in my country to the full, immersed in the farm life of the village of Vilanova del Vallès. The crowing of the cock and the squealing of the pigs heard in the sweetness of one's final moments of slumber. The solitary footsteps of a neighbour, the cry of another, the gentle whine of the well's pulley and the splash of the bucket hitting the water. Life in that tiny village opened my eyes to the essence of Catalonia. Yet we should not confuse the mythical, nostalgic and romantic Catalonia of Verdaguer and Folch i Torres with the real Catalonia when addressing political and social conflicts. Neither should we presume that our history, like that of all the other peoples the world over, is as glorious and exemplary as some would wish us to make out.